Pretoria was a battleground. Imagine a kid who didn't just feel lonely, but actually had to navigate a world where violence was a daily background noise while his mind drifted elsewhere. It left a mark. Now here's the heavy part. Behind the rockets and the cars stands the ghost of Elon Musk, a man who cast a shadow so dark it forced his son to build worlds just to escape it. The trauma became the fuel. He didn't really play. While other kids were out in the dirt, he was busy breaking down the physics of everything around him until reality looked like a series of solvable equations. He was never a child. Think about this. He inhaled the entire Encyclopedia Britannica before most kids had finished their first comic book, treated it like a map for a world he didn't yet understand. He was downloading reality. The wiring is different. It's almost as if his brain was built for hardware and logic circuits, leaving very little room for the messy, unpredictable social games the rest of us play. It's a trade-off. Actually, there's no filter. Asperger's seems to provide him with a direct-to-logic interface that strips away the fluff and leaves only the hard data behind. Social niceties are just noise. He starts at zero. First principles isn't a buzzword here. It's the act of tearing a problem down until you're staring at the raw atoms of the truth. Everything else is just a guess. Analogies are banned. To him, saying something is like something else is a lazy way to lie, because in his world, the only thing that actually matters is what physics allows. Physics doesn't bargain. 2008 was the abyss. Both SpaceX and Tesla were bleeding out on the table, and the world was watching with a grin as his entire empire prepared to vanish into thin air. He was broke, but he doubled down. Instead of walking away with his pride, he dumped every last cent of his personal fortune into 2 dying companies and decided to starve with his dreams. He went all in. The factory floor became his bedroom. By sleeping under a desk while his engineers worked, he turned his own exhaustion into a psychological weapon that forced everyone around him to run faster. It was a message. Then comes demon mode. It's this terrifying state of hyperproductive fury, where he expects the impossible and burns through people like they're just another consumable resource in the system. He becomes a machine. Feelings get in the way. It's almost as if empathy is a luxury he decided he couldn't afford if he was going to save the species from itself. Progress demands a price. Mars isn't about adventure. For him, getting to the red planet is a biological requirement, a way to ensure that the light of consciousness doesn't blink out when the Earth finally breaks. It's an insurance policy. We are just data. He looks at humanity as a fragile operating system that desperately needs a backup drive on another planet before the primary hardware eventually crashes for good. We're a ticking clock. The goal is merger. Neuralink isn't just a medical tool. It's his attempt to weld our slow, biological brains to the lightning speed of silicon so we aren't left behind by the machines. He's plugging us in. He's actually scared. He describes building advanced AI as summoning a demon that we might not be able to control, and that quiet terror is what drives his most frantic projects. The monster is coming. The memes are a shield. That weird, cryptic humor we see on his feed is a way to keep the world at arm's length while he processes the immense pressure of being who he is. It's a mask. X is something bigger. He's trying to rewire the way information moves, turning a social media app into a global nervous system that reacts to the truth in real time. It's a grand experiment. Happiness is absent. He lives in a state of chronic dissatisfaction where nothing is ever good enough, which forces him to keep iterating on the world until it matches his vision. He can't stop. Victory brings no peace. Every time he wins, the stakes just get higher, and the problems get more complex, leaving him trapped in a loop of his own making. The mountain never ends. He lives in the danger zone. While most CEOs run for cover at the first sign of trouble, he has spent his entire life comfortably walking through the valley of death. Chaos is his home. The trauma is weaponized. He took the pain of his early years and forged it into a tool for global disruption, proving that he could change the world before it could break him again. He fought back. Engineering is his god. In a world of messy politics and vague opinions, he treats the laws of physics as the only sacred text worth following or believing in. Logic is the prayer. He's betting it all. Imagine a gambler who isn't playing for money, but is tossing the entire future of the human race onto the table just to see if he can win. He's playing for keeps. The man is gone. There is no Elon left, only the mission, as if his entire ego was swallowed whole by the giant goals he set for himself decades ago. He is the work. It's lonely at the top. Even with 1 billion people watching his every move, there is a profound sense that he is standing completely alone in a room full of noise. Nobody can follow him. Time is the enemy. He's obsessed with the fact that we're all running out of it, which is why he moves with a frantic urgency that makes everyone else look like they're standing still. The clock is ticking. He lives in the future. While we're worried about next week, he's busy optimizing his decisions for the year 3000, trying to build a foundation that will outlast his own name. He's already gone. He's the architect. What we're seeing is a neurodivergent mind trying to rebuild destiny from the ground up, whether the rest of us are ready for it or not. The blueprint is set.